There are questions hidden in Scripture that feel almost too dangerous to ask out loud, mysteries so deep that even time itself seems to step back in silence when they are spoken. And one of those questions echoes across eternity like a whisper carried between heaven and hell. Why did Lucifer himself rise from the depths of rebellion to contend over the body of a dead man? Why would the Prince of Darkness, the architect of deception, abandon the dominion of shadows just to fight over a corpse? What could possibly be hidden inside the lifeless body of Moses that would provoke such a confrontation? This was no ordinary moment, and what happened on that mountain was not witnessed by human eyes. The earth stood still, the wind seemed to withdraw, and the silence that followed was not empty, it was charged. It was a silence where unseen realms collided, where heaven and hell leaned forward, waiting. And yet, this moment, this cosmic confrontation, is only mentioned once, quietly, almost mysteriously, in a single verse tucked away in the book of Jude. A battle not fought with weapons forged by men, but with authority that flows from the throne of God itself. Because when Moses died, his story did not end. In fact, something began. Lucifer came for his body, but he was not alone. Someone stood in his way. And what unfolded in that unseen realm revealed something shocking. Moses was still dangerous, even in death. Dear friend, before we continue this powerful revelation, please kindly hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, to help us grow this channel. Doing this is absolutely free, and as you do that, may the good Lord bless you. Now, Mountain of Nebo stood wrapped in stillness. The wind moved gently, but it carried a weight, as though creation itself understood what was about to happen. Below, the Jordan River twisted through the valley like a living thread of silver, and beyond it stretched the land of promise, a land Moses would see, but never touch. He stood there alone, at the edge of destiny, at the boundary between fulfillment and denial. 120 years of life had led him to this moment, years carved into 3 distinct seasons: Egypt, wilderness, and leadership. Each season shaping him, refining him, breaking him, rebuilding him. His body bore the marks of time, yet Scripture declares something almost supernatural. His eyes were not dim, his strength had not faded. This was not the slow surrender of a man worn down by age. No, this was a summons. A divine calling. Heaven itself was drawing him home. This was the same man who had stood before a burning bush that burned but was not consumed, the man who confronted Pharaoh with the authority of God and watched a river turn to blood, the man who raised his staff and saw an ocean split open before him, who climbed Mount Sinai and returned carrying the law of heaven etched in stone. He had stood in the presence of God, not from a distance, but face to face, wrapped in thunder, fire, and divine glory. And now he stood in silence. This was not just death. This was a divine transition. God showed him the land, the inheritance promised generations before. Every hill, every valley, every stretch of soil soaked in prophecy. But then came the words that carried both fulfillment and restraint. You will see it, but you will not enter it. Not cruelty. Not rejection, but justice wrapped in divine wisdom. Moses had struck the rock in anger, and in doing so, he misrepresented the holiness of God before the people. And yet, even in consequence, there was mercy. Because what followed was unlike any death recorded in human history. No burial ceremony. No mourners. No rituals. No witnesses. God himself buried Moses. The ground concealed him, the moment hidden from every human eye. Deuteronomy tells us plainly, no one knows the location of his grave. But that raises a question that refuses to stay quiet. Why would God hide the body of one of the greatest prophets who ever lived? Because this was not about remembrance, it was about protection. Because heaven was guarding something, and hell had already taken notice. Lucifer had watched Moses from the very beginning. From the fragile basket drifting on the Nile, to the burning bush, to the moments of failure, to the mountain of death. And even then, he was not finished. Because Moses was not just a man who died. He was a message, a living testimony that even flawed humanity could walk intimately with God. A declaration that failure does not cancel calling. That divine purpose can survive human weakness. And that message was dangerous. Lucifer could not allow it to remain untouched. So he came, not with fear, but with fury. The valley darkened with a presence that did not belong to the natural world. Lucifer moved like a shadow wrapped in broken glory, his presence bending the atmosphere itself. He knew where the body was. Not by chance, but by knowledge. Because this was never about flesh. It was about authority. If Lucifer could claim that body, he could distort everything Moses represented. He could turn reverence into idolatry. He could twist legacy into deception. He could cause generations to worship what was never meant to be worshipped. This was not theft. It was sabotage of divine intention. And just as he reached toward the grave, heaven responded. Michael. Not with noise. Not with spectacle. But with presence. Authority incarnate. The warrior of heaven stepped into the moment, not to negotiate, but to enforce. Lucifer spoke with accusation, claiming rights through failure, through sin, through death itself. But Michael did not argue. He did not defend Moses with words. He did not engage in debate. He spoke one sentence that carried the weight of eternity. The Lord rebuke you. And everything changed. Because the authority behind those words did not come from Michael, it came from God. Lucifer had no claim, no legal ground, no authority. And in that moment, he lost. This was not just a battle over a body. This was a declaration of ownership. Moses belonged to God even in death. And there is something deeper here, something that reaches into eternity. Moses was not just a historical figure. He was a key figure in God's redemptive plan. The law he carried pointed forward to Christ. His life was a shadow of something greater. And centuries later, he would stand again, not in weakness, but in glory, beside Jesus on the Mount of Transfiguration. Lucifer knew patterns. He sensed prophecy. And he feared what Moses still represented. But heaven had already secured the outcome. And this moment, this hidden battle, reveals something profound. The enemy does not just fight your present. He fights your legacy. He fights what your life will mean long after you are gone. Because sometimes, the greatest impact of a life surrendered to God is not seen in the moment, it is revealed in eternity. Moses never saw this battle. But heaven fought for him anyway. And that truth reaches you right now. Because the same God who defended Moses defends you. The same authority that rebuked Lucifer still stands. The same ownership still applies. Your life, your story, your purpose is not unguarded. So when the enemy whispers lies about your past, about your failures, about your worth, remember this moment. The Lord rebuke you. Because when God claims something, it is off limits. even to hell. And what happened on that mountain was not just a mystery, it was a message. A message that echoes across time, that even when everything seems hidden, even when your story feels unfinished, heaven is still at work. Because even if darkness rises, it cannot rewrite what God has already sealed. And just like Moses, your story is not over. Hit that subscribe button now and give this video a like if it blessed your soul. Until next time, remain blessed.